been picked up since Inchevska Henel. And I think it's partially because these topics are not now trendy in the West, but it's also strange to me that now it's an open topic and it doesn't work yet in Poland. And then above all, and here I find, many of you may have seen the book by Timothy Snyder, what I find the greatest failing of that book, but of much of Polish historiography, this is not Polish historiography as well, is the desire to view Ukrainians only within the Commonwealth. And to forget that after Khmelnytsky's Great Revolt, a sizable body of the Ukrainian territory and population is outside of the Commonwealth, and they form the culture of the hetmanate of the 17th and 18th century, and therefore the modern Ukrainian national formation of the 19th century comes to a considerable degree not from territories that were in the Commonwealth, but from territories that were outside the Commonwealth. It is that left bank area of Ukraine that is the center of the Ukrainian national movement at the beginning of the 19th century. And therefore the desire to reduce the Ukrainian question to just the Commonwealth distorts that historiography. And so I would call it the blinder on the hetmanate. Now what about Ukraine? First of all, I talked about the good historians who worked in Ukraine in the difficult period. There were as well a sizable number of terrible historians who still worked on that period, and they then work on and they produce students. And I think that there are great failings still of Ukrainian historiography from all the years that it could not carry on normal study, source study. People didn't learn Latin. Well, how are they going to work on this period if they didn't know Latin? And other such problems. So it is limited, and then, of course, Ukraine is economically collapsing. So not only is there the general problem of the modern period, but how many people are going to go into history? I also think there is the remnant of hyper-patriotism. It was natural in the early 1990s, after the Soviets had not allowed you to be patriotic, to be very patriotic. And in the old days, one of the few ways you could be patriotic was against the Polish nobility. You couldn't write against the Russian rule, you couldn't write, but you could write against the Polish nobility. That continues on to a considerable degree in in Ukrainian historiography of this day. There are, on the other hand, very positive signs. Regrettably, there are no chairs of Polish history in Ukraine. So the Polish history doesn't exist outside of relations with Ukraine, which I find limits the field. But within that field, there are contributions being made. We mentioned Natalia Yakovenko, a historian who has been extremely influential, creative, open to Polish historiography, and I think has done much to bring the achievements of Polish historiography to much of Ukrainian historiography, and is definitely someone who might be called even an anti-nationalist. Indeed, there would be those who would call her a Kulishika, another Pantelimon Kulish type person of our generation. There are those who criticize her strongly for these reasons, including Professor Zisayevich and others, who see her as too much copying Polish models without thinking about them in new ways and not contributing to them. And there are many others who criticize her as well. But it begins an interesting historiographic debate in Ukraine occurs over Yakovenko and her work and her histories. And that, I think, will advance the field in many ways. Now, what I've tried to do is show what the state of historical play is at the moment. I think the reason it is particularly important that these discussions continue and in a new way is, one, as I've said, I think that the rethinking of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth in Poland that one would have expected to have happened with the opening up of archives and material in the East is not going on as quickly as it might. And I brought out this issue of the Ukrainian national formation and the hetmanate as one case where we can see that if more Poles read Ukrainian and read Ukrainian historiography, they might begin to think even about the Commonwealth in new ways by thinking of territories outside it. And on the other hand, this Ukrainian historiography that's developing, which, as I say, is improving, but needs quite a bit of time,